a cave deep beneath the earth. Absolute darkness. The sound of dripping echoes against wet stones. There, bound to 3 massive boulders, lies Loki, the trickster god of Norse mythology. But these are no ordinary chains that hold him. They are the entrails of his own son, Narfi, transformed into iron by the gods. Above his head, a venomous serpent suspended from the ceiling drips poison onto his face. Each drop burns his divine skin. Each spasm of pain shakes the very earth itself, creating earthquakes in the world of humans. This is not just punishment. This is eternal torture. And beside him, holding a bowl to catch the venom, stands his wife Sigyn, condemned to witness her husband's suffering until the end of time. How did the most cunning god of Asgard arrive at this cruel fate? What horrific crime could justify such brutal punishment? The answer lies in the darkest act Loki ever committed, and in the merciless revenge of the gods. The journey begins with Loki in his days of glory in Asgard, the golden realm of the Norse gods. Son of the giant Farbodi and the mysterious Laufey, Loki was technically a Jotun, a giant, but had been accepted among the Aesir through his blood oath with Odin, the All-Father. Unlike Thor with his brute strength or Odin with his ancestral wisdom, Loki possessed a unique gift, the ability to shapeshift at will. He could transform into any creature, any person, anything. This ability, combined with his sharp intelligence and even sharper tongue, made him simultaneously the most useful and most dangerous of the gods. In the great halls of Asgard, where gods feasted and told stories of their conquests, Loki was always present. Married to Sigyn, an Aesir goddess whose name meant friend of victory, Loki had 2 sons with her, Narfi and Vali. But Loki was never faithful. With the giantess Angerboda, he fathered 3 creatures that would terrorize the gods. Hel, ruler of the shadowy underworld, Jormungandr, the serpent that encircled the world, and Fenrir, the wolf destined to kill Odin. In his form as a mare, he even gave birth to Sleipnir, the 8-legged horse that would become Odin's mount. Loki was paradox personified, sometimes helping the gods escape from terrible situations he himself had created, other times causing pure chaos for fun or personal gain. He was the spider at the center of every web, the whisper behind every scandal, the laugh that echoed when things went wrong. In Asgard's hierarchy, he occupied a strange position, neither fully trusted nor completely rejected, always walking the razor's edge between usefulness and treachery. In the early days of Asgard, it was Loki who helped the gods acquire their most precious treasures. When he maliciously cut off the golden hair of Sif, Thor's wife, he was forced to make amends. He traveled to Svartalfheim, the land of the Dark Elves, and through bets and manipulations, got the finest craftsmen to forge magnificent gifts for the gods. Golden hair for Sif that would grow naturally, Gungnir, the spear that never missed its target for Odin, and Mjolnir, the indestructible hammer for Thor. But each act of redemption came with new schemes. Loki stole Freyja's necklace, the Brisingamen, simply because he could. He transformed into a salmon to escape the gods' fury, into a fly to spy, into an old woman to deceive. His tongue was as sharp as any sword. At divine banquets, he openly insulted the gods, exposing their secrets and weaknesses. He accused Odin of practicing feminine magic, something shameful for a male god in that culture. He called Thor a coward for episodes in his journeys. He mocked Freyja for her promiscuity. No god was safe from his venomous words. The gods tolerated Loki because he was useful, because Odin had sworn him as a blood brother, because his pranks sometimes solved bigger problems. They laughed nervously at his jokes, accepted his apologies when he went too far, and tried to keep him on their side rather than against them. But their patience was not infinite. Every insult, every trick, every betrayal added weight to a scale that was slowly tipping. And Loki was about to cross a line from which there would be no return. In Asgard lived Baldur, the most beloved son of Odin and Frigg. Baldur was everything Loki was not: pure, kind, loved by all. His name meant the Shining One, and he was associated with light, peace, and purity. His beauty was unmatched, his wisdom profound, and even his enemies could not hate him. Baldur was simply too good for this world. One day, Baldur began having terrible nightmares about his own death. In Norse culture, dreams were omens, windows into the future. Frigg, his mother, was terrified. She knew that Baldur's death would be a sign of the beginning of Ragnarok, the Norse apocalypse, the twilight of the gods where the world would be destroyed and reborn. Desperate to protect her son, Frigg traveled through all 9 realms. She went to every creature, every plant, every stone, every element. And from all of them she extracted a solemn oath that they would never harm Baldur. Fire swore not to burn him. Water swore not to drown him. Weapons swore not to pierce him. Animals swore not to attack him. Even poison swore not to poison him. When Frigg finished her journey, Baldur was invulnerable. The gods, relieved and amused, created new entertainment in Asgard. In the great halls, they threw spears, stones, axes at Baldur. Nothing hurt him. He remained unharmed, smiling gently as weapons bounced off his skin as if they were feathers. It was a game, a celebration of his invulnerability. Warriors who had spent lifetimes perfecting their aim now threw their deadliest weapons at the god of light, only to watch them fall harmlessly to the ground. It became the favorite pastime of Asgard, a daily reminder that Baldur was special, protected, untouchable. But Loki watched it all with different eyes. He did not see celebration. He saw challenge. Baldur's invulnerability was an affront to his nature as a trickster. There would be a loophole. There had to be. Loki did not tolerate absolutes. Disguised as an old woman, Loki approached Frigg. With a sweet and concerned voice, the old woman asked about the oaths that protected Baldur. Frigg, unsuspecting, told everything. "All things have sworn to protect my son," she said with pride. "All things?" asked the old woman. Well, Frigg hesitated. "There is a young plant that grows west of Valhalla. Mistletoe, they call it. I thought it was too young, too small to represent danger. I did not ask for its oath." Loki smiled and sighed. His old woman form thanked her and departed. He went directly west of Valhalla and found the mistletoe growing humbly among ancient rocks. It was indeed small, apparently harmless. But in the right hands or wrong hands, anything could be a weapon. Loki carefully plucked the mistletoe. Back in his true form, he shaped the plant into a sharp spear. It was not large, not impressive, but it would be enough. The wood was smooth, the point deadly. He tested its weight, felt its balance. Perfect. Now he needed someone to throw it. Someone who would not suspect treachery. Someone innocent. And he knew the perfect candidate. Baldur's brother, was blind from birth. While Baldur shone like the sun, lived in perpetual darkness. He was as gentle as his brother, but lived on the margins of the gods' festivities. When others threw weapons at Baldur, laughing and celebrating, stood aside, unable to participate. Loki approached him with feigned sympathy. "Why do you not participate in the fun?" asked Loki, his voice dripping with false concern. Sighed. "How can I? I cannot see where Baldur stands. I do not want to embarrass myself." "Ah, but that is unfair," exclaimed Loki. "You are also Odin's son. You should also honor your brother. Let me help you. I have here a small spear. I will guide your hand. You will throw, and everyone will see that you also love Baldur." Touched by the apparent kindness, agreed. Loki placed the mistletoe spear in the blind god's hand. He positioned him carefully, aiming directly at Baldur's heart. Pulled his arm back and threw with all his strength. The hall fell silent. The mistletoe spear, small and apparently harmless, flew through the air and pierced Baldur's chest. The god of light staggered. His eyes widened in shock. Blood, golden and bright, began to seep from the wound. And then, for the first time in his immortal existence, Baldur, the invulnerable, the beloved, fell dead on the floor of Asgard. The impossible had happened. The light had gone out. The silence that followed was deafening. Then came a scream, a howl of anguish that echoed through all 9 realms. Frigg ran to her son's body. Odin, the All-Father, stood paralyzed, knowing this moment marked the beginning of the end. The other gods stood in shock. Baldur was dead. The impossible had happened. HR, realizing the horror of what he had done, began to weep tears of blood. I did not know, he screamed. The gods quickly realized there was more to this tragedy. Loki had disappeared from a feast. They suspected, but they still had one chance. Hermod, the messenger of the gods, rode Sleipnir to Helheim, the realm of the dead ruled by Hel, Loki's daughter. Hermod begged Hel to release Baldur. Hel, sitting on her throne of bones, considered the request. Her face, half beautiful and half corpse, showed no emotion. I will release him, she finally said, if all things, living and dead, weep for him. If there is a single thing in all the realms that refuses to cry, Baldur will remain here until Ragnarok. The gods rushed through all 9 realms. Everything wept for Baldur. Men, women, children, animals, plants, even stones shed tears. The very mountains wept water from their peaks. But in a dark cave, they found a giantess named Keke. Weep for Baldur, the gods implored. The giantess laughed with a harsh voice. Keke will weep dry tears for Baldur's death. Alive or dead, Odin's son gave me nothing. Let Hel keep what she has. And the gods realized it was Loki in disguise. He had killed Baldur and now ensured he would never return. If you are enjoying this dark tale of Norse mythology, leave the word vengeance in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more mythological stories that go beyond what you can imagine. The gods' fury was absolute. Loki had committed the supreme crime. He had not only killed Baldur, but prevented his resurrection. He had accelerated Ragnarok. He had doomed them all. Vali, son of Odin and the giantess Reindr, was born and grew to adulthood in a single day with a single purpose: to avenge Baldur. He found HR, Loki's innocent instrument, and killed him. It was cruel justice, but justice in the eyes of the gods. But HR was just a piece. Loki was the real culprit, and Loki knew his time had come. He fled from Asgard, using all his cunning to escape. In the most distant mountains, on the highest peak he could find, Loki built a house with 4 doors, 1 in each wall, so he could watch in all directions. By day, he transformed into a salmon and hid under a waterfall called Fernangersfors. At night, he returned to his form and sat by the fire, weaving fishing nets. He knew the gods would come, but he also knew every trick of evasion, every secret path, every transformation that might save him. But Odin from his throne Hlidskjalf could see all 9 realms, and he saw where Loki was hiding. The gods marched. Thor, Heimdall, Kvasir, the most powerful, came for him. When Loki saw them approaching, he burned his net in the fire to leave no traces and jumped into the river as a salmon. But Kvasir, the wisest, saw the ashes of the net and understood. The gods wove their own net and fished in the river. Loki, cunning to the end, jumped over the net. But Thor was waiting. With his divine hands, he grabbed the slippery salmon by the middle. That is why they say salmon have that narrow part near the tail, where Thor squeezed him. The trickster had been caught. They dragged him to a deep cave in the bowels of the earth. It was not an ordinary prison. It was a place of eternal darkness, where light never penetrated. There, the gods prepared the cruelest punishment they could imagine. And it would not be just for Loki. They brought his sons with Sigyn, Vali, and Narfi to the cave. Sigyn screamed, begged, but was ignored. The gods had decided. They used their magic to transform Vali into a wild wolf. In seconds, the boy disappeared, and in his place was a beast with hungry eyes. Vali, now wolf, did not recognize his brother Narfi. He only saw prey. What happened next was too horrible to describe completely. Narfi was torn apart by his own brother, his entrails scattered across the cave floor. The sounds echoed in that terrible chamber, screams that would haunt even the gods who ordered it. Loki was forced to watch. The trickster god, who had laughed at so many, who had caused so much pain, now knew an agony from which none of his forms could escape. The gods collected Narfi's entrails, still warm with his son's life, and with dark magic they transformed them into iron chains, stronger than any metal forged in Asgard or in the realms of the dwarves. They drilled through 3 massive boulders and dragged Loki to them. They bound him with his own son's entrails, one around his shoulders, another around his stomach, the third around his legs. The chains kept him completely immobile, stretched between the stones like a chained animal. He could not move, could not shift, could not escape. But the punishment was not complete. Skadi, the giant goddess of bow hunting, whose father had been killed by the gods and who harbored special hatred for Loki, brought a venomous serpent. She tied it to a stalactite directly above Loki's head. The serpent dripped venom continuously. Each drop that fell on Loki's face burned like liquid fire. His divine skin blistered and regenerated, only to be burned again. The pain was unimaginable, eternal, endless. Every nerve screamed. Every moment was agony renewed. And then Sigyn appeared, Loki's faithful wife, who had seen her children destroyed, who had every right to abandon him, made a different choice. She took a bowl and sat beside her husband. She positioned the bowl to catch the venom before it fell on his face. Drop by drop, she filled the bowl. When it was full, Sigyn had to turn away to empty it. In those brief moments, the venom dripped directly onto Loki's face. He writhed in agony, so violent that the entire earth shook. Humans in Midgard called these convulsions earthquakes. This was the eternal cycle. Sigyn catching venom, the bowl filling, Sigyn emptying it, venom falling, Loki writhing, the earth trembling, again and again and again, for centuries, for millennia, until the end of the world. No one spoke in that cave. There were no words for what was happening there, only the drip of venom, the breathing of a faithful wife, and the occasional terrible scream when the poison found its mark. In the darkness of that cave, Loki had much time to think. About Baldur, whose light he had extinguished. About Hr, the innocent instrument. About his own children, Narfi dead, Valley transformed into a beast, Hel ruling the dead, Jormungandr growing in the oceans, Fenrir chained in another prison awaiting Ragnarok. His entire family was monstrosity or tragedy. He thought about Sigyn, sitting there decade after decade, century after century. His friend of victory, who had no victory at all, only duty and incomprehensible love. Why did she stay? Loki had never been faithful to her. He had never been kind. And yet, there she was, easing his pain when she could simply let him suffer. Perhaps this was the cruelest punishment, not the chains, not the venom, but witnessing the unwavering loyalty of someone he had never deserved. But Loki knew something the gods tried to forget. This prison was not eternal. Ragnarok was coming. The prophecies said that when the twilight of the gods arrived, when Fimbulwinter, 3 winters without summer, covered the world, when brother fought against brother and morality collapsed, Loki would break free. The chains made from his son's entrails would shatter. He would command Naglfar, the ship made from the nails of the dead, bringing the giants to the final battle against the gods. His son Fenrir would devour Odin. His son Jormungandr would fight to the death with Thor. His daughter, Hel, would release the dead. And Loki, the trickster, would finally have his revenge. The world would burn, the gods would fall, and from the ashes something new would be born. But until then, in the darkness, with venom burning his skin and Sigyn's silent presence beside him, Loki waited. Because patience, after all, was just another form of trickery. And so ends the story of the most brutal punishment in Norse mythology. Loki, the trickster, the creator of chaos, paid for his crimes in a way that even the gods considered extreme. Bound with the entrails of his own son, burned by eternal venom, he awaits the end of everything in a cave beneath the earth. What do you think of this punishment? Was it fair for Loki's crimes, or was it too cruel, even for the one who killed beloved Baldur? Leave your opinion in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dark exploration of Norse mythology, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Soon we will bring more stories of the gods, heroes, and monsters that have shaped human imagination for thousands of years. The next story promises to be equally fascinating and full of twists you will not want to miss. Until the next mythological journey.